Welcome to another episode of the Virginia Investor Podcast. Today, we have a psychologist, multiple business owner, real estate investor, deal maker meetup host, Dr. Anthony Duncan. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me here. And I'm excited.
I'm excited too, man. I've seen some notes on your story, and I've seen your name floating around quite a bit recently. And so I'm excited to get into this and see where you came from, like what was your upbringing like, how you got into all this stuff. I'm especially interested in like the psychologist aspect of it as well.
Right.
And I'll try to hopefully ask some good questions, like uncover some information there and kind of dig into your mind a little bit and try to learn some stuff from you, because I know you have so much to offer with, some of the stuff that you've gotten into and some of the success that you're having today. Let's start at the beginning though. Where were you born?
Yep. So, Stephen, I was born in Woodbridge, Virginia.
Okay.
So my dad was in the Marines.
Sweet. Awesome.
Right. And so that gave us the opportunity at an early age. So we traveled. So like I've been to the Philippines, and that was a cool experience. But unfortunately, my parents, they got divorced when I was about 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 8 years old. And so we were living in the Philippines, and then I guess they were having like a coup at the time. And so my mom and my 2 brothers moved back to Quantico, Virginia. Mm-hmm. My mom raised us, me and my 2 brothers. And, I remember just like recounting like how many schools I've actually like gone to. Mm-hmm. So like, for like the next 8 years, I was going to a different school. Right. And so, mom just trying to get stabilized and trying to figure things out. Right. But yeah, I ended up, graduating Potomac High School, and then first person in my family to go to college. Yeah. And so I ended up going to Hampton University and getting my undergrad in psychology.
So you're 8 years old, your parents separated, got a divorce. My parents divorced, but it was later in life, in high school years. Massively impactful to me. Couldn't imagine 8 years old, right? And your parents are superheroes, right? Yeah. Especially your dad in the Marine Corps, like absolute superhero in your mind as an 8-year-old. You go back to live with your mom in Northern Virginia. You changed schools a lot. Mm-hmm. Were you playing sports? Mm-hmm. Were you getting good grades? Were you like, what kind of was that childhood experience for you? Yeah. Even though you were dealing with a single mother with 3 boys.
Yeah. So I wrestled. Started wrestling in 6th grade and playing football. So I pretty much played sports, the whole time. And I think that was probably like a saving grace, right, instead of getting into less desirable type behaviors and kind of acting out. End up having great coaches who became mentors, father-like figures, and really just help raise me.
What was your influence to play sports? Like, just enjoyed it as a kid, or did you have other reasons to play it?
Yeah, I've always been like really, really curious. Yeah. So that's just kind of like one of my gifts. And probably saw some guys wrestling. I was like, oh, what are you guys doing? And so, all right, I'm coming to wrestle too.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
What'd your mom do for a living?
So my mom was a correctional officer.
Okay.
Yeah, so correctional officer, 27 years, for Lorton, and then DC Department of Corrections.
Wow.
Yeah.
And growing up, what was your view on finances?
There really wasn't a view on
just
finances.
Pay the bills. Like, you got to get money, pay bills.
Yeah. So I always knew one thing that was certain was that I never wanted to be broke. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, I've always had a little entrepreneurial spirit, and, would just find ways to make money, whether it was cutting grass, mm-hmm, buying bubble gum in bulk and reselling it in school. Just always trying to find ways to make money, and never wanted to ask my mom for money. And so, had my first real job at 15. So our house had actually burned down. And so that was a really, like defining moment where it was like, I'll never ask my mom for money, and I'll make sure that I'm a contributor, and not a detractor.
Yeah, there's I think Daniel Clayman was on this podcast, and he said something super interesting. He was like, there's makers and there's takers. And there's a number of ways, like contributors and detractors and stuff like that. But it's interesting to think about that, like him as a developer, he's making things. Like, he's not trying to take things from people. He's just constantly making things. And that's where he wants to put himself. And so I couldn't imagine your experience with a mother that is working to support her family, single mother, your mindset of like, not wanting to ask her for anything. Like, you know, that's got to be so powerful. And then you have a house that burns down. I assume you lose a lot of, maybe everything, but a lot of your personal items. Like, what happens? How do you come back from that? Like, how do you get back on your feet after something like that happens?
You know, my mom was renting a house, and I think it was a Georgetown Village. We didn't have renter's insurance, so we lost completely everything. You know, but I also remember there was a gentleman, Ray Jackson. So he had a mentoring program when I was in 8th grade. And I remember calling Mr. Jackson, telling him about it. You know, he literally, you know, he picked me up, you know, took me shopping, you know, just said, hey, everything's going to be okay. Things are going to work out. We had like, you know, posters, you know, just all throughout the school, like help the Duncan family. Wow. And so, and it was a lot of support, you know, from the school system. And so, I mean, really thankful. But it also, I think, also gave me the perspective, you know, to be a giver, right? And so that's something I carry, you know, with me, like, to this day.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it could do one of two things. I mean, it could do a couple of things, right? It could make you a victim and be like, this is terrible. This is what happened to me. You know, just bad things happen to me in life. Or as terrible as that is, you're like, man, look at how this stepped up, and I want to be in a position to be able to give and make an impact and do this for other people.
Yeah.
I guess with your experiences, you sound like you were a kid that recognized things, that was more aware that, like, hey, you shouldn't ask your mom for stuff. Like, she's working super hard, and hey, your house burns down. Like, you should be grateful for what you have. Where I don't think that many people naturally think that way, unfortunately, at least at that age, right? Eventually, people may think more and more like that. But I know certainly, like, when I was a kid, I still think back to when I was a little brat, you know, like I wasn't like mostly like this, but I remember there were isolated times where, like, I was a complete brat, like mad at my mom and dad for like not doing something, and then realizing it as an adult, like, man, they were doing the best they could, you know, like we didn't have a whole lot of money and stuff like that. And so I was not always aware of that type of situation, that, like, yeah, you actually need money to do some of these things, and then you got to work really hard to have money, and it's really hard for some people to get money and stuff like that. So you're going through school. Did you say you were getting like decent grades, good grades?
Yeah, I'm an average student. You know, there was nothing really spectacular, you know, academically, and I never really thought about it until I got into college. You know, so playing sports, right, and then, you know, you're expected to do your homework and so forth. I never did homework. Zero. I don't know how I graduated from high school. I never did homework. The backpack would literally hit the front door, right, and then, you know, get something to eat, you know, probably play some games,
right,
go to bed, wake up, pick the backpack up, go to school, right? And so obviously I had, you know, some decent intelligence, right, to be able to navigate, you know, through it. So it wasn't until, like, I got to college and I was like, oh man, if you actually apply yourself, you know, you can actually be pretty smart.
That's great. So when in high school, did you know college was the next step? Was that just like the thing that you do, no question about it?
No. So nobody in my family had ever gone to college, right? And so I remember I was dating this girl at the time, and she went on a college trip to Virginia Tech, and so this is the first time I've ever seen a college.
Yeah, really.
And so I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah. Like, okay, you know, so, you know, now we're having a discussion about what college is and so forth, and so I just tell my mom one day, oh, I'm going to college. I mean, you know, like that's what I'm gonna do. And then so my mom was like, well, how are you going to get there? And I was like, I don't know, I guess you drop me off, right? I mean, it was that naive, not really understanding what college was, how do you pay for college, and, you know, everything else that comes with it. Yeah. And so, but I remember my guidance counselor, my senior year, my guidance counselor, and her name was Miss Wakefield. So if you're listening, yeah, you were wrong. So she actually told me, she was like, no, she's like, you know, college isn't for you. Like, you know, you shouldn't go to college.
Freaking terrible.
And so I said, oh, okay, I appreciate that. Then go to the next guidance counselor, who wasn't assigned to me, you know, Miss Jones. Hey, Miss Jones, like, you know, I'm going to go to college. She looks up my transcripts, like, all right, I think I had like a 2.9 GPA. She's like, oh, yeah, you can go to college. Yeah. Right? And I'm like, all right. And she's like, you need to go check out Hampton University. Went to high school day, and then once I got there, I was like, oh, yeah. I'm definitely going here.
That's awesome, man. And it's ridiculous how, like, you're so influenced at that age for people to tell you like something's not for you is absolutely absurd, and I hate that exists. Right?
Yeah.
As long as you're not doing anything unethical, immoral, or illegal, like they should support what you want to do. Essentially.
Yeah.
So good for the second guidance counselor that was like, hey man, I think you could do this, right?
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Cool. So then you figure out how to get there.
Yep.
Obviously. I mean, so you apply, you figure out some financing, I assume.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you play sports at all in college?
I did. So I played my freshman year. I played football
Sweet.
at Hampton, and ended up tearing my ACL.
Nice.
Right. It was the blue and white game, and so you wanted to have a good game, see if you were going to get you're going to get money or not. So I remember after I tore my ACL, ended up going back, getting it fixed and playing spring ball. Did really, really well. And then, you sit down with the coach, having a discussion like, how'd you do? Were they going to offer money or not? And I wasn't offered any money. He was like, hey, you did really good. Come back next year. We should have some money for you. And at that point, I was like, you know what? If I'm here, then, let me focus on, what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And so I stopped playing football.
Yep.
And that was literally, I couldn't figure out exactly what people did with their time.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, okay, you go to class. Like, what do you do, when you finish your class for the day? I went to practice. I've been doing that, since I was in 6th grade.
Right.
And so, girls were going to the library. So I was like, I'm going to the library.
Yeah.
Go to the library. You can't just sit there in the library, for so long without picking up a book and actually reading it.
Right.
And so I started reading, reading the actual, the books and the chapters that the professors were assigning. And I mean, I picked up the information. And I remember going to class one day, and it was, I think it was like biological psychology. And, actually her name was Professor Duncan, and she's asking a bunch of questions, and I'm raising my hand like, oh yeah, I know that, and she's like, huh, like you seem to have a grasp on this. And I was like, yeah, I just read the chapter. But that was like the first time in my life I had sat down and ever like really studied.
Right.
And then I ended up becoming a TA, and so now I'm going down this path of like psychology and everything.
When you had all that free time in college, you have a lot more freedom than you're used to in college too. What made you go down the path of like going to the library and studying versus like the alternate route of just partying and stuff like that? Like, did you have was it certain influence? Have you ever been pulled in that direction, or are you just naturally like, hey, I'm a good person. I'm gonna hang out in this lane.
I learn really well by watching others, and so if I see the outcome that other people are experiencing, then it's like, oh, okay, that behavior is that outcome, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have to experience it, for me to learn from it.
Yeah.
And the girls were going to the library. So it's a good motivation.
Good spot to be.
Yeah. So, we had like 21 ratio back then. So I was like, I'm going to the library.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, like you seem very aware, right? Because now you're aware of other people's situations and what outcomes are, and then putting yourself in the right situation for various reasons to be productive. So you get into psychology a little bit. I remember, actually, I haven't thought about this probably in 10 years until just now, but like I went to VCU for like one semester. I dropped out of college, but I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 semesters, but regardless, one of the classes I took was like Psychology 101 or something, just like a basic psychology. And it was one of the most interesting classes, and I was so passionate about it. Like I remember at that point, I was like, don't want to do this. And it was so interesting to me, like just everything about it, like just how people think and how people work and operate, and like why they think the way they do, and what makes people think differently and have different personalities and stuff. And it was just really intriguing to understand. And I remember like, I dropped out of college because it just wasn't for me, especially at that point in my life. It just was not where I needed to be. But that one class I showed up to all the time, and I was super engaged, and I think I did really well in it, but it was only a semester. And then but I had always had it in the back of my head. I was like, man, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this kind of clicks. This kind of makes sense. Like it's I think for some people they just grasp it, a lot easier than others. And that was my experience, with psychology. And so I took Intro to Psych with Dr. Brown. He was a very young professor. I think he was the chair at the time. Very charismatic. And I remember I was sitting, at the back of the class, and he's like, hey, like come down here. And so he makes me sit in the front. I may have been goofing off or something. makes him sit in the front. And so now clearly, we're engaged at this point.
Right.
I think the next semester I ended up taking another psychology class, and I was like, hey, will you be my mentor?
Sweet.
Right. And, again, I think it's important to look at, defining moments in life that really just shift your trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Dr. Brown for me was like the first, male role model that I just felt like had the whole package.
Right.
And he ended up becoming my mentor, and it didn't matter. Like whatever he said, like I was going to do
Right.
it because again, I'm looking at his behaviors and his outcomes, and I'm like, I want more of that.
Right.
And so what do I need to do to accomplish, what he's accomplished?
Why do you think he said yes to being your mentor?
Probably because I was pretty persistent and showed up and never complained, right? So, he's been, extremely successful in things that he's done. And, he's got office hours, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so guess what? He would show up late to his office hours. And I would sit there and, hey, glad that you're here, just as if, some people are like, hey, you're supposed to be here at such a time.
Right. Yeah.
Look, you have something that I want,
Right.
right? So
100%.
let me position myself where, I'm not like,
Right.
it's not an antagonist. Like,
Right.
So, yeah, I think he was open to it, because, I guess how I, interacted,
Right.
with him, and I was consistent, and I was going to relentlessly pursue him.
Right. It's interesting to think about like a little nugget there also that you said is like you did anything he asked you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there are several times in my life where I put myself in front of people that probably had no business being my mentor, right? Like
Yeah.
meaning like they were so far above, like they were where I wanted to go eventually, but they are busy, super wealthy, like all kinds of different things to where like, why would they necessarily take me under their wing?
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those like where you show up and you relentlessly show up and you do everything they ask you to do. Again, like setting aside, you wouldn't want them to be your mentor if they were unethical, immoral, or illegal, right? But like, so assuming all that's not, you do everything they want you to do, and you do it at a high level, as consistent as possible, and like attention to detail and stuff. And man, like the people that you can get in your network to hang out with you and to take you under your wing, or like things you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
And so it's cool because like you basically listed all that out and said he was your mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a handful of people that listen to this podcast are like, I want a real estate mentor. People throw that term around all the time. And so that's whenever I hear that mentor, I like to dig into that a little bit because people wonder how they can find their mentor, how they can get their mentor. But to your point, this guy had set the example of, you saw his outcome,
Mm-hmm.
you saw kind of where he was in life, at least for what you could see, and kind of what the result of what he knows and what he's accomplished is. And that looked good to you. And so you showed up consistently and did everything he asked you to do or needed you to do.
Right.
And you didn't complain.
Yep.
Yeah. And if he was late, you didn't say, hey man, you're late. Like you're there like, hey man, cool. Like, what can I do for you?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's awesome. That's a great way to do it. So you're going down this psychology route. What does the education requirements look like for that?
Yeah. So, I graduated with honors in undergrad psychology, Hampton University, and I applied to a couple different doctoral programs.
Sweet.
At that point, because at this point, like outside of my freshman year, I'm getting like 3.9s.
Yeah, crushing it.
Yeah. So, because I'm locked in.
Right.
And then what else do you do with your time, right?
Right.
So, and then I got accepted into the same program that Dr. Brown went to, the Virginia Consortium for Clinical Psychologists, and it consisted of the College of William and Mary, Norfolk State, Old Dominion, and Eastern Virginia Medical School. And so we would spend time at each of the campuses that made up this consortium program, doctor in clinical psychology with a PsyD, not PhD, which is more not research-based, more clinical-based, application. And so that was like my next step right, into the field. And so here's a guy, family never has gone to college, and now I find myself in a doctoral program. So it was really, I think back at it, it was one of those things where, intelligence at this point isn't a factor, it's perseverance. Right. And I remember I would always go back to Hampton because that's my home base, my support system. And Professor Dr. Scott, she says, I want to remind you, she says, at this point, everybody there is smart. Everybody there hard work. They work hard and everything. It's, are you, how long will you persevere the pain?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so now you just learn to build up this pain tolerance.
Right.
For things that, either you don't know how to do or you don't want to do. And so, yeah, that's another, teaching moment. I think that's just helped me, throughout my journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's like going from high school to college sports and then college to, professional sports, but you're doing that at this doctorate level now. It's a new game. Like, everyone in the classes now are locked in.
Yep.
But can they persevere and can they hang in there through all the hours and studying and everything they have to do to win, right?
Yeah.
You'd mentioned the first person who went to college, and now you're in a doctorate program. My next question was going to be, what does your mom think about this?
Yeah.
Like, you're in this doctorate program. What is your mom thinking?
Yeah, no, I mean, she's extraordinarily proud. She's always been, right? I mean, she's always been my biggest fan, so like every wrestling meet, she was always there. You know who my mom was because she was yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And, it's been that way my whole entire life. Like, just having like your number one fan who always shows up for you. Right. And so I just remember thinking, I'm going to position myself to make sure that I can show up for her
sure
when I need to.
About what time are you finishing your doctorate?
I think I'm 22 is when I started. It's a 5-year program. So yeah, I finished 5 years. So 27.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do have to persevere in that. It's not, it's not quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's straight up. And I mean, there's no you don't get summers off.
Yeah.
Right. There's
Yeah.
I mean, I went to school, 10 years.
Yeah. I'm assuming you're not making decent, you're making money, but you're not making good money, right? It's nominal, right?
And this is kind of where real estate kind of begins to peak, right? So favorite book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Love it. Classic.
Is that what got you into real estate?
Oh, for sure. It got me into the mindset of understanding money.
So
right?
how were you recommended that book? How did you find that book?
Remember that curiosity? I was the kid who probably skipped school and looked at the Carlton Sheets, probably ordered the Carlton Sheets kind of course because I was interested. And then I couldn't even tell you how I stumbled across the book, just to be honest. But I remember reading it and I was like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah.
This if it makes sense to me, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. So, I move off campus as quickly as I could because, paying for tuition, and I financed the whole thing. So literally student loans, grants, Pels. That's how I got through college.
Right.
So let me back up. So anyone who says that they can't afford college doesn't understand. Because, what you're really doing is you're borrowing against your future earning potential.
Right.
Right. And so, yes, you can, it may not be a way that you want to, but I finance everything.
Right.
But it positioned me to be able to make more money later.
For sure.
So, but again, got the book and I was like, I'm over here renting. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. There's got to be a better way. And this is before 08, just to kind of, the market matters at this point. And so, I don't even know how I got approved, to purchase a house, right? I guess they were giving loans to anybody. Yeah, I think that, so I had a stipend coming in, probably was making, I don't know, less than $20,000 a year, right? I get approved for this loan, right? I'm like,
crazy.
This makes sense. So now I buy my first house at 23. Yeah, and then, this is what I love about it when you come across the right real estate professionals. They'll educate you about the process and what's happening and how to use leverage. So her name was Pat. I can't think of her last name, and she was my realtor. So here I am, 23, bought my first house. My mom was just like this.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. So she comes to the closing. So the picture. So then I get a roommate, of course, right? So now the roommate's paying for pretty much the whole mortgage.
You've already read the book at this point?
Yeah,
Okay,
I've read the book.
Got
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've always been fiscally conservative anyways. This just helped me understand, assets, liabilities, and how to maneuver, those things. So then, again, I have a roommate. He's paying for most of the mortgage. Still got a little money coming in. A couple years later, you get this big equity jump. So I'm like, pull out the equity, right? So what do you do when you pull out equity? Well, hopefully you can buy more real estate, right? So I'm still in the program, get my doctorate, have like 4 other rental properties right now. My wife now, so we met when I was in college, and I convinced her to buy a property.
Sweet. Yeah. Use that loan.
Yeah. I'm like, so she's in pharmacy school, and I'm like, no, you need to get a house. And, so she got a house, terrible tenant in place. And I'm like, don't worry about it. We can figure it out. So download the Landlord Tenant Act, read that. And I'm like, okay, because we ended up having to evict the person. And it's like, I don't want to do this. She sold it. She still made money, right? And so, like, I'm hooked, in this real estate, but still, going, finishing my graduate program, moved to Chicago because I have to do my my pre-doctoral internship to, it's one of the last requirements, before, your dissertation. And so I got this little rental portfolio, doing this thing, which was like real cool. I still have one of those properties,
Sweet.
To this date. And so I had a tenant there for like 20 years, like one tenant.
Yeah.
So, sorry, kind of a little tangent, but it's I kind of light up because it just allowed me to make a lot of different moves, with money that, from a kid that came from a place with no money, right? And it was just really like fascinating. So I end up, buying probably not necessarily an asset. I don't know how you want to look at it. But so I bought my wife's engagement ring, from some of the equity from one of the properties.
Awesome. That's a hard achievement for a lot of guys. Like, how do you buy the ring, man?
Yeah.
Like, because usually at that point when you want to propose, you're not making a lot of money. You don't have a lot of capital saved up. For you to do it that way is incredible. That's awesome. How are you buying these houses? Like, were you just continuing to pull leverage from each house as equity increases? Is this before the financial crisis?
Before the financial crisis.
Okay, yeah. So equity is increasing, and are you leveraging each house to be able to buy another house? Is that kind of how you're doing it?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then you buy your ring using leverage, which is awesome. What happens in the financial crisis? Like, what is that? Does it obviously, like, financially it'll impact you, but as far as like the real estate aspect and the holdings, like, did you have to sell them? Were you in bad shape or what? Like, what
all advice isn't necessarily good advice, right?
Correct.
And so my high school wrestling coach, he did like really, really well in real estate. Really, really well. He's in Northern Virginia, has like 30 properties. He's crushing it. And so, obviously before the crisis. And so I remember having a conversation with him, and he says, so mind you, like, everything's cash flowing. Yeah. Right. So we haven't, the rates didn't adjust, so it was coming up. Right. And so, a couple of my other friends who were, in the game, they were getting loan modifications. And so I'm like on the computer, I'm like, I need a loan modification. Right. Right. I was getting rejected left and right. So they wouldn't modify any of my loans.
Were these 30-year loans or like 5-year ARMs?
They were 5-year ARMs. Okay. Yeah. I thought, my primary one was a 30-year loan. The rest of them were 5-year ARMs. Okay. Right. And, but they're cash flowing. They're cash flowing nicely. Yeah. Again, little ego and ignorance getting in the way. And so, like, my buddy was like, oh, you know what you do with a bad asset? And I'm like, what? He's like, you let it go. So I was like, okay. So not sound like financial decision. And so that's what I did, though. And, so end up keeping one property and let the rest of them go. In hindsight, you wish you would have kept them? Yeah. Like, they would have been fine after the adjustments? They would have been fine. Yeah, they would have been fine after the adjustments. Right. And the other side, I was doing this without making any money. Yeah. Right. And so now at this point, like, I have a legitimate job as a psychologist, so good income. My wife has a great income as a pharmacist. So, right. We didn't have to, or I didn't have to make that particular decision. It was probably premature. Right. Because I guess it really wasn't a bad asset. Right. But it's tuition, right? Like, you hadn't been through a great financial crisis. Like, who knows when you're coming out of it. Yeah. And then it's just scary. Like, now maybe in hindsight, you look back and you're like, you're in a much different position now. But in hindsight, it's easy to make that call, right? But at the time, man, who knows? There's been a few assets that I've sold just
through tuition, just like learn. They've been great assets. Should have held on to
Yeah.
them. Should have managed them a little differently.
Yeah.
As far as like through either the renovation or the refinance or something. But yeah, I look back at those and I'm just like, fortunately now I can like kind of smile about those instead of like, hate life. But
Yeah.
so it's all just a part of the experience. But that I think obviously many people feel. So you're gaining this portfolio, you're getting through the financial crisis, you sell off a few. What is your goal with real estate investing? Are you looking at this as like financial freedom, or so you never have to work again, or time freedom? Are you looking at it like that because you're driven to be a psychologist? And so is it just financial savviness and just having more money and more wealth, or what? Like, what does it mean to you? Why are you doing this?
So, I mean, what it means to me now, so it's funny. Fred Krause and I, we just met, and, we were just talking about, income and taxes and things. And so, like, now what I understand is it's not necessarily like how much money you make, it's how you make your money,
100%.
which has the biggest impact, right?
Yeah.
And so, I have some companies that I've built up, make really good income, from those companies, but they're not passive. Right. And so I'm being taxed totally different.
Right.
And so it's like, I remember sitting back, I was at a financial freedom wealth seminar. I can't remember the gentleman who puts that on. And I'm like, I have great active income. Like, this is phenomenal. But I'm looking at my passive side. I'm like, oh, this sucks. Right. Like, so, that means we're exerting way too much effort, on the wrong side. And so we need to begin to transition, and start building more on passive income. And so, like, that's the primary motivation, to get involved in real estate.
Let's talk about the passive stuff. So all this schooling for psychology, you said you've always had some sort of entrepreneurship mindset.
Yeah.
When did the switch happen away from psychology and into, pest control or entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah. So it was in 2010. I mean, not too really far after the whole financial crisis. I'm working for the Department of Juvenile Justice, clinical psychologist. Love working with the youth. I mean, love, love the work that I'm doing with them. Really helping them to, begin to see the world different, right? And assisting them with gaining some skills on how to process and change mindset and ultimately behavior. I'm home getting my tonsils removed, and I'm praying at the counter, and I'm like, all right, God, what should I be doing? What should I be doing next? Give me some direction. And mind you, my friend, Travis, the one who did really well in real estate, had called me and was like, hey, you need to do this mosquito authority thing, right? We're killing these mosquitoes, man. This is going to be great. And he was waiting for the next wave because he got crushed, in the financial crisis. I say crushed, I mean, he was not doing as well as he was accustomed to doing, but he was, obviously surviving. And we always talk about, all right, there's going to be another wave, right? And so there are waves that happen. And so, depending on when you get on the wave, it matters. So timing is important in entrepreneurship, business and such. And so he found out about this particular franchise called the Mosquito Authority, out of all places on Craigslist, right? It's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. And so, the fees to get in are nominal. And, but going back to my prayer, and I'm like, all right, God, give me direction. And I heard the voice of God tell me Mosquito Authority. And so I go tell my wife what my experience was. And she, very important piece right here. So she says to me, she was like, okay, all right, well, I got your back.
Heck yeah.
Right? And so
that's awesome.
Yeah. Who you marry matters, right? We've been married 20 years now. Right. And having somebody who is there literally to support you, your journey and your beliefs and things really, really matters. It makes the ride, so much easier. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And I went, told my pastor on Bible study on Wednesday. It was like, hey, this was my experience. And he was like, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to be obedient. Went to work, put my 2 weeks notice in. Right, and bought a used truck, got it, bought the franchise, and like literally, so it was just trusting in God and saying, all right, well, I mean, because I think God wants to be tested, so this is my word, right? I'm like, all right, so he actually says that. So I'm like, all right, cool, I believe in what you're saying, you said you got me, and started the business.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And man, my mind goes in so many different ways, but one thing that stands out is like your wife married you because she believes in you and your capability no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. And it's very clear when you have your doctorate in psychology and you want to go start a mosquito business, right? Or a pest control business, right? And so it's just unbelievable what marrying the right partner will do. Someone who marries you for you and your capability and will bet on you and have your back and support you. And that's largely an indication that you feel the same way about her, right? And so like that kind of partnership is just, I love hearing that, man. Yeah. It's awesome. Because I've also seen the opposite. Thankfully, not in my personal experience, but like I've seen other people want to go do things that like they've changed course and they're like, man, I'm passionate about this. I love it. But their partner, either husband or wife, will say like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. Like, no, you're going to fail. You can't figure that out. That's for other people to do, and that person is just like drowning in sorrow because they're stuck now where they are. Right. And so it's awesome to see that sort of response in a marriage and a partnership. And like, those are the reasons why people become very successful at small business ownership or real estate investing and stuff like that if they're married, is because that family unit or that partnership is just so strong to help support those challenges. Yeah.
And so, I mean, just to add to that, so my wife is, Candace Duncan, and so she actually has, now she has her own company doing corporate housing.
Sweet.
So she's working as a clinical pharmacist. I mean, obviously, really, really good income, supporting us. Like, she's like, I got it. Like, we're good. And, not only does she support me, like, financially through it, but it was I understand and accept, the sacrifice that, that we're going to have to go through, because you have to figure out what are you willing to sacrifice, right, in order to be successful. So that, there's something about, you have to be, this is my opinion, if you're trying to accomplish, anything of value, you have to be obsessed about that thing. Right. And really relentlessly chase it. And it was allowing me to be obsessive about, figuring out this new thing without nagging for the attention, right? She understood, that she was giving up like that attention, for to be positioned in a different place later on in life.
Right.
And so, so I mean, we go year by year, we're building. And then we finally get to a point where I'm just like, we don't need your income anymore, right? And so she was eventually able to walk away as a pharmacist, right? And so we have a 12-year-old daughter, Zoe, and be there more, like, to help raise Zoe. And she was like, oh, well, and then she ended up starting up her own business as well.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So
That's cool.
She's a big reason of, why I've been so successful.
That's sweet. You say businesses generate cash flow, assets generate wealth. I assume when you grew your business and you started making some money, you found that out.
Right. Yeah. Correct. Yes.
First tax year.
Absolutely. It's incredible. You're just like, oh, I have to pay what? Like, oh my gosh, like there's got to be a better way.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. When you finally start to make money and then the tax bill comes in and you're like, okay. And so I had known people who were levels ahead of me, and they would always be like, do this for taxes, think about taxes, and I was always like, whatever. Yeah. I need to make money. Yeah. And then once you start making money, it's like, oh, this is why everything they do revolves around how to save on taxes now. I guess you learned in a similar fashion. I mean, you probably had a high earning year and then got the bill and was like, oh my goodness, like what's going on here?
What do we do with this?
What would you say to business owners that are high earners, cash from their business? Yeah. How should they look at transitioning to assets? How should they manage that? Like, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, no, that's literally why I invest in real estate, so I can, have those offsets. There's so many different, strategies that I've been, advised on and have taken advantage of to help, mitigate these high tax, burdens. And so, I mean, as a business owner, there are effective strategies, right? Buying a piece of or buying a real estate asset, being able to do a cost segregation study on it, so that you can use that to help, reduce your liability.
Right.
I mean, when you need to, like, you're trying to figure out this problem, and so they're real solutions. And for me, real estate has really been a savior to help me, understand, how to make it work to the best I possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, just doing a cost seg and saving $30,000 or $40,000 on your taxes is
Big deal.
Yeah, you spend a $1,000 or $2 doing a cost seg, and there's places to do it cheaper if you want to do more work. But both are challenging, like building a real estate portfolio and building businesses. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the difference in challenges? Because I own Peak Property Management. Yep. We've grown that company, and I also invest in real estate. I see very clear different challenges between the two. What has your experience been in your challenges growing your company and then growing a real estate portfolio?
So I would say in growing like the different companies, people like it's people like they're your real asset, right? Yeah. And so learning how to recruit, hire, train, right, the right people is probably one of the biggest advantages. And if you do it well, then I think it makes business a lot easier. But I would say, and I've learned, I definitely have done it wrong, many times over. But I mean, we continue to learn. And then, I mean, and having good processes in place are really important. So I really do think, in a systems manner. So I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what's the system? Where did that system break down? So how do we put some things in place in order to mitigate that problem from arising again? So people on the business side, I would say on the real estate side, education. Mm-hmm. So I've lost a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years by either, having misinformation or, partnering up with the wrong people.
What's an example of misinformation and then bad partners? You don't need to go into details or name names, but what's an example of some information that you didn't have that you should have had, and then maybe a bad partnership?
I was not as keenly aware of the complete due diligence process, right? I mean, we can say that with people, right? For sure. So there is a vetting process that one needs to take in order to make the best informed decision before you partner up with somebody. Right. Misinformation is, not understanding the transactional process that a deal should go through, right? Specifically, like on the lending side, right? There's a very specific order things should happen. Not having that information, made some mistakes that that end up costing me. But again, mindset thing is oh man, I'm so glad I learned it now, right?
Tuition.
So because what if there were millions, on the deal,
right?
$100,000 doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, I'm really eager to get into partnerships and start new businesses and do because I really just want to get into all these different things. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I allow a little bit of time to go by and I become more rational, right? And I'm no, hold on, hit the ball. We got something really good going on. Yeah. Let's continue to focus and drive and build. Forcing myself to date someone before marrying them in a partnership has helped a lot. Yeah. And so, because I will immediately sign these operating agreements and let's do this thing. Yeah. I get really excited and because I look at it as how can we help? How can I help support someone? How can I put someone in a better position? How can I, I'm always looking to try to add value. And I think maybe through this venture, we could do this, we could team, I can make a bigger impact. And I get really excited about it. And then before I do, usually again, a couple days, a couple weeks go by and I'm all right, let's think more unemotionally about this, more rationally about this. I'm like, we should have some dating period before, and usually that's when things fizzle out, or we find out it may not be a good partnership, or we both don't have the same intentions, or it's just not the right structure or something like that. So yeah, that's interesting. And where does your business operate?
Yeah, so the Mosquito and Pest Authority, we have a location here in Richmond, Virginia, and we service all the way up to Fredericksburg, all the way as far south as like Emporia.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
I mean, what are we going to? New Kent, all the way to Orange, so everything in the middle. Right, so we have a large territory there. Also have a location in Puerto Rico that's been being run very, very successful. Have a phenomenal, again, people, operations manager who, man, if I could get him to Richmond, I mean, it would be heaven.
How did that come about? Why randomly Puerto Rico? You just met someone who'd be a good fit?
Well, so mentor inside of the Mosquito Authority franchise, he was actually the co-founder. We're having a discussion, and he's like, all right, man, Anthony, he says, when this is all said and done, okay, like, where do you want to be? I'm like, I said, Charles, I'm going to own a mango farm in Puerto Rico.
Cool.
And then he was like, okay, all right, that sounds good. He says, but what are you doing about it now?
Wow.
It's like, I mean, so sometimes it's the right question.
Right.
Can just be like, And I was like, nothing. I'm like, okay, so otherwise, we're over here just dreaming. I was like, well, one of the concepts that I do, even before I'm necessarily prepared, I call it like throwing the ball over to the area where I want to be.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm like, if my goal is to retire in Puerto Rico, I'm like, well, what do I know that can get me to Puerto Rico faster? Like right now.
Yep.
I'm like, well, what I know right now is this franchise. So I was like, all right, open up a franchise here. I mean, that's a whole nother mindset piece that, everything is figure outable.
Right.
Like there's, you can figure it out. I mean, I don't speak Spanish. Right. I mean, so I'm half Puerto Rican. I don't speak Spanish. I blame my mom for that, but it's another conversation. I hire a translator once I get over there, and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do this, and we're like Googling and figuring it out, and so, and then eventually, what happens is that Jose is his name, is the our director of ops there. He finds me. We had a meeting when I was in Puerto Rico. He was working for the public mosquito abatement, and he wanted to come back to the private, and he relentlessly seeked me out.
Awesome.
And it's been a phenomenal partnership over the last 6 years.
That's cool, man. Regarding your real estate, you're all about quality and very selective about what you're buying. Like I understand you own residential properties, you own commercial properties as well. Why do you feel like it's way better to optimize the assets that you have and be selective versus go buy 100 houses?
So I use that word a lot, like optimize, right? So have you so this is what I'm talking to myself, like, have you actually leveraged every single aspect of this particular asset that you have? And so if I haven't, then it's like, all right, well, why don't you focus on, leveraging every piece of this before you move on? And so that's what I tend to do. So I'm always going into it to say, okay, how many different opportunities can we get, revenue from this particular? Like
highest and best use versus like, this is what everyone's doing, just do this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, and that's why I feel like, everybody's journey, as a real estate investor is different. I mean, I feel like I have a higher, like, just general business acumen, and then know that I need to be involved in real estate, to, number one, like mitigate these tax liabilities. And so, but I really enjoy real estate. And so, but I mean, you come across, I got 200 doors, I got this and that. And I'm like, I think that's phenomenal, so I'm like just slow walking it, and just, getting more involved, and probably the last couple of years have really just started kind of putting myself out there, because this is eventually where I want to spend more time.
That's awesome. When you're looking, when your primary goal is to build wealth through real estate, what type of assets are you looking for?
Yeah, so for me right now, it's like simple. It's, if I can find a 3-2, in the right neighborhood, residential. There's so many. Everybody's got a different strategy, right? Everybody's got a different belief system behind it. Is it the best strategy? I don't know. Is it what I know and understand and have been successful in? Yeah. So that's just what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I play the same game. Like it's to me, it's simple, straightforward. There's a bunch of them, and I guess arguably less risk. Like just go do what you know and keep repeating it, and do it in different neighborhoods and try to buy right. And over time you learn kind of where you want to be, where you don't want to be, and things like that. Are you doing any like marketing or anything like that, or are you just like referral based, your network, things like that?
Yeah. So what was it? It was like last year. I had this great idea. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start this wholesale company. Right?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Right.
Easy, right?
Who hasn't thought that idea, right? And so, so I get, so basically get the system set up, and eventually find out. And actually, it was a partnership, and kind of came to terms that I'm like, all right, well, you're trying to. I tried to pick a partner who had different strengths than what I have, right? And so we can be like complementary, but really didn't take in consideration, well, this guy, he's got his business, right? And then we got a business together, and I've got my business, we got business together. And so, well, what happens, when your business needs your attention, right?
You're going to serve that first.
Right, you're going to serve it first, right? And so it didn't work out, but I did learn, how to effectively, source like off-market properties.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
I went through the whole process. I'm like, all right, cool. I mean, I picked up 3 houses in like 3 months, and then
that's awesome. Yeah.
Then I had to turn around. I was like, oh, well, now your business is picking it back up, so you need to focus on your business, right? And so, so that kind of pulled me away. And but right now I am exploring, getting things start back up, and we'll likely try another partnership. Now I think knowing what I know now, the right partner who has the skill set, and at this point, not going into it as an owner operator, I think is also a different mentality. So it'll be a lot slower, but having the resources, hiring out the team from the onset, versus expecting that, oh, I'm going to manage it, or my partner's going to manage it, when clearly, what we do have is resources, collectively, and, and some know-how, and whether it's operations and systems and, real estate.
That's 100% agree with what you said. Like, you guys should not be doing that. You have the resources to get the team in place. Like, I guess it's good for you to experience it, but then get out of it, put the right people in place.
Right.
How do you use psychology to find deals?
So I use psychology, I've used psychology in talking with the individuals who, are in a really bad situation. And so, I mean, there's nothing like overly like profound, but so in a we'll just say like in a therapeutic relationship, the number one thing that's important, and I'm gonna say number one of the most important things is going to be the rapport, right? And so everybody knows what rapport is, but so that ability really to connect and trust, as quickly as possible, especially in the therapeutic relationship, really helps whether this person is going to be successful, right? And so it's the same thing in dealing with people, and dealing with people who are in a distressed situation. And so if I can come in and help kind of just disarm you, and and for me, because I just like to be very transparent,
right?
And help you understand this is what the situation is. At the end of the day, they have to figure out whether or not they're going to trust you. But I think what you say, when you say, how you say, all have very important meanings. Tone, inflection, all those things contribute to establishing rapport, and so kind of learn some of that, throughout the years in psychology.
Awesome. Tell us about this Lake Anna project that you have going on.
Yep. So Candace and I, we purchased this Lake Anna property a couple years ago, and when I saw the property, we were just like, oh my gosh, never fall in love with the property. We were like, oh my gosh, and so, I'm much more, probably riskier. I have a risk profile than she does, and so I'm like, oh, we're going to buy this.
Nice.
And it's on 3 acres. Got water frontage. We're Airbnb in and out right now and have been, but it has so much more potential. It has a barn. So eventually we'll convert the barn over to another living space. And we've been exploring the opportunity to put turning it into like a glamping site, because it's
put yurts and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so I think that would, because it has enough acreage, and
right.
I think it would be very unique to like this area. There's not that many of them around here. So that's what's on the
That's cool.
horizon.
Do you have a lot of short-term rentals, or is that like the main, like one of the main ones?
No, so that's one of the main ones. Candace's business is based on rental arbitrage. So
that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so she's got, I don't know.
And then you have
13.
long-term. You have the commercial properties for your businesses too, and then you have long-term buy and hold houses. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Deal maker.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved with the deal maker network in general? Like when, because obviously I'm very familiar with that network and a lot of people in it. Joe Mingersall has been on the podcast.
Yes.
Good friends with him, and we talk all the time about landlording stuff and property management. But there's a lot of the guests that we've had are also integrated within that community as well. So like in a lot of podcasts, we talk about deal maker and things like that. How did you get involved with that group in the first place, and then what started up the meetup idea?
So I've probably been going to Dealmaker for about 4 years now.
Awesome.
And first Dealmaker actually sat right next to your dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was like the first one, and we're just trying.
So he introduced you to 600 people.
Was that right? Yes.
It's like all he does.
He's a master networker. It's amazing to see him work. So like my whole I guess adult experience has always been trying to figure it out, right? And so I've paid for this program or this guru or this or whatever, and so you spend a lot of money in doing that. And I'm like, man, right here in your own backyard, like you've got like one of the most powerful real estate networks that is so genuine, so authentic, so giving. I mean, I was like, yeah, I just want to be a part of it. And so, the way I get, the way I become a part of it is like, all right, what can I give, right? What
For sure,
can I give,
100%.
Right? So I'm just like, and that's when, I was like, oh, well, I got these resources. Like, so like, I'm going to donate 1% of our top line every year. Like it's a non-negotiable, where we put it, that's, what we have to figure out. And so that's when I started, really, making pretty large donations to Charity Love.
Awesome. Yeah.
And, so the more I did that, the more you just get, kind of entrenched into like the deal maker community.
Yeah.
And, so the reason why I remember going to the gym, I was like, yeah, I think I want to do a deal maker meetup. And for me, again, that whole concept of, I have to do something or thrust myself in a direction where I really want to spend more time. So you would think that one would just say, oh, well, I'll just go to other meetups, right? I'm like, no, I have to start a meetup, right? Because at this point, it's going to force me to be more engaged.
It's not easy to do.
Oh, my gosh.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. So it's been doing it. Yeah. So I still don't feel like we've, got our feet underneath of us yet. But I'm committed to it. Yeah. And, but I mean, I've met just so many phenomenal people. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with most of them.
It's an incredible group, and I think a lot of it has to do with the leadership that put all that in place, that culture and that mindset in place. And it's Jim, but it's other OG investors too, in the same community. Obviously, Jim runs the whole deal maker organization, but the other meetup groups that are awesome too, that kind of have a similar mindset, are run by those OGs that all are friends as well. Yeah. But we're just incredibly blessed to be in this network. It's funny because my brother, I'm the little brother, right? He's 8 years older than me. So like I might be a principal broker and owner of a property management company and have real estate investments and manage 1,500 units and be a Class A general contractor. But like, he's like eventually, talking to him about trying to get him to invest in real estate, and then he's like wanted nothing to do with it, right? And then finally he went on a chair love trip actually because my dad convinced his daughter, my niece, to go to Africa with him recently.
Yeah.
And so he as her father is like, nah, like I'm going too. So he hopped on as well, but he went with Augie and Wendy Coles and my dad and so and Augie and Wendy have been on this podcast as well for anyone listening, but their stories are incredible. They're just an incredible group. And then he comes back and he sends me a text and he says, I think he had listened to a couple of these podcasts, which surprised me on this flight. He had he probably all he had left to do was like listen to like 1 or 2 episodes. But so he texted me and said, hey, I think I'm interested in, investing in, in real estate. And then he texted me like a day later and says, I have lunch with Jim, in a day or two. I'm like, dude, like just straight to the top, like gonna go eat lunch with Jim. Like, I thought it was hilarious, but it also just shows like, I mean, it's just incredible. Like Jim he doesn't need to have lunch with anyone. He doesn't need to offer any help to anyone. He doesn't, need to continue to do what he does, but he and a bunch of other people in the network. I mean, you coming on this podcast, like you own multiple businesses, you have real estate investments, your wife is super successful, you have a meetup, you have all this big network around you, but yet you take the time to come on the podcast to like help share your journey and share the information and knowledge that you have to help other people be successful. I mean, that's the whole, like when I invite people on the podcast, it's like, hey man, we're not bragging. We're seeing if we can just share our journeys to like, because it may help someone else in a similar situation, or they can contact you and get some, some advice or just some mentorship, quote unquote, to like understand how they can move forward. So what is that Dealmaker network done for you since you've gotten involved?
So I would say just, what you're talking about, just access to, relationships, right? Like I remember, there was a deal that I was looking at and I'm just texting him. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Right. And he's like, oh man, looks good to me. Go for it, right? But just getting that reassurance, has always been helpful. And it just like, what is it? Your net worth is your network, right?
Yeah.
And so, but being around, just authentic individuals is really, most important. I mean, so at this point in the game, it's not like, another zero. I mean, that'd be cool, but that's not going to really move, like the major
your happiness.
Yeah, exactly. It's, can you be around, others and collectively have impact,
right?
And so like that's part of, why I wanted to do the Dealmaker, meetup group. Like I don't want anybody, if I can help it, to have to go through like some of the experiences that I've gone through,
right?
Through misinformation, just not having the right, connection. So, and that's what, having a strong, great network does.
With all that you're building, you had mentioned that you wanted to build something that like goes beyond yourself or like outlives yourself, basically. Like what do you want your legacy to be? Like, what are you trying to build that's bigger than you?
That's a really good question.
If you look at like the next 20 years, and that's I do not think in 20, 30 year terms at all, but like if you had to expand your mindset and look 20 or 30 years from now, what do you hope that you've built to impact those around you or your family or whatever you want to accomplish?
Yeah, so I would say it's really the empowerment of of mindset, that it really is possible. Like, I do not believe that I possess a unique, extra set of abilities. I mean, do I work hard? I work extremely hard. But, do I think I have extra talents? I mean, I don't personally. Now, I do have a mindset, right, that says that, no, it's possible. If you believe it, like you literally can achieve it, and you just have to continuously work at it. And so, like, I run across a lot of, I would say youth. I still call them youth. I mean, I'm 47, so they're youth to me. and just helping them to understand, like, no. I mean, you have a dream, like you can accomplish that dream, right? For me and from where I've come from, like I wake up every day, I'm like, man, you're living a dream,
Incredible.
man. Like this is this is phenomenal. So, and that's really what I want to do, and then make sure that I pass on the same, mindset, to my daughter, of course.
Yeah.
Right. And make sure I empower her for her to be able to understand what her own potential is.
Yeah. What about the next 3 years in business? Like just more investments, more business, or what? Like what are your what moves you're
probably
making?
more. So if I had it my way, it would be more real estate deals. So and I'll tell you, what was it? So, was it Lori Eubanks?
Yeah.
So she challenged. I mean, she came and spoke one time, and I was just like, oh, like she hit it so hard. It was crazy. Like she, I'm doing the onesie Tuesday. She's like, why don't you just buy a portfolio? And I'm just like,
yeah. Yeah, she got tired of buying single houses. She's like, I need to buy 15 or more. Yeah.
I mean, but that's kind of like I love the mindset shift, right? And it's kind of like, I don't know why I didn't think about that. That's pretty incredible, and just her giving us, laying it out. And that's the thing. We can lay all the information out. Most people will not take action.
100%.
Unfortunately, right? So, but for those action takers, it's available. It's there.
Yeah. And that's when you have to be honest with yourself, because there's so many people that are like, I wish I could do this, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. Dude, you can't. Like you can. You just make a decision. You got to put in the work. It's brutal. It's hard. Yeah. But you can, and that there. But you're so right about that. Is like I've actually learned that over the years. And then someone recently, a recent conversation, just put it black and white. It's like if you need to help someone start a business, they shouldn't be starting a business. Like it needs to be someone who could do it on their own. But there's been over the years I've tried to help people on my team and people outside of my team, like start businesses and find the light, like find this way of financial freedom, find all these different, not that I have it all figured out, but like I've learned some stuff, and I know other people who I can introduce them to that know more than I do, but you can't make them do it. And they got to want to do it on their own. And that sometimes is like a very hard lesson to learn, especially when you really care about those people and want them to win. You mentioned Lori. I was going to say, like, you probably already have, but like talk to her about the Lake Anna thing, because she's got some killer short-term like deals. She's got some awesome stuff, but on the like unconventional short-term side of things that do really well. And then there's more people too. I could go on, but there's more people that do like yurts and stuff like that are really like containers on the side of the mountain and stuff, like do some really interesting stuff. Cool. So if someone came to you and they wanted to get started in real estate, what would you say, just generally speaking, what's the first move they need to make?
I always believe the first move is getting educated, right? So so get connected in a meetup group, right? So building relationships, so you will compress your learning time and also number of mistakes by getting into the right network of individuals. So that's what I would recommend. And be willing to figure out a way to add value, to someone else who's already doing the thing that you want to do. Right. That's what I would do. Yeah.
And there's always a way to add value. Even if you don't think it's possible, there's always a way to add value. You got to figure it out. Don't ask the person.
Right.
Like, because everyone will just say, well, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, no, I'm good.
Right.
You can't help them. You got to figure it out.
You just got to watch. Watch, observe. Like, you have enough conversation with somebody, you'll find out what their sticking point is. Right. And then you can come in and start, adding value, if you can help whatever that sticking point is.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I would do.
Where can people go to find information on your meetup?
Yeah. So we're on Facebook. So what is it? Dealmaker and Ryko on Facebook. And come check us out. And we meet every third Thursday at my office on the East End.
Sweet.
And so, it's one of those, and every deal maker or every, meetup has its own vibe and everything. So my mom, she cooks, You know,
Really?
so yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. She cooks,
Yeah.
come in, get a good meal, you know, really comfortable environment. It's you know, very welcoming. You know, I kind of feel
Yeah.
like, you know, it's more like, you know, like church,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
than it
awesome.
is, because I mean, you know, you can go to some meetups and then everybody's already clicked up and know each other, and you know, you kind of feel a little awkward, out of place. And so I just want to have you know, an inviting atmosphere
Right.
where individuals can come and learn and grow.
I love that your mom is engaged. Man,
Yeah.
she's got to be so proud.
Oh yeah. I mean, so the and I didn't mention this, but this is, so when my mom decided it was like time to retire, right? Well, what we didn't understand, or I didn't understand, I don't well she understood it or not, but it was a reality. There was no like there's no pension for DC Department of Correction. It's kind of like, no, it's whatever you saved in your 401k.
Wow.
Yeah, and so so my mom has actually, you know, come and work for the company, just helping out and things. And so you know, and when she was ready to, she actually lives here in Richmond, and she was ready to move. And so you know, I convinced her to buy a foreclosed property, and then we rehabbed it, you know, for some equity in it. And
Sweet.
you know, so just because, you know, she needs to be in a certain, you know, range in order to be able to afford, you know,
Right.
and still, you know, have good accommodations, living accommodations.
Yeah.
So
That's great, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Where can people find you? I mean, they can find you at the Dealmaker Henrico meetup. Is there another good place to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. Do I give my text number out? I mean, I'm kind of.
If you feel comfortable doing that, you can. You can email or just say, like, go to your website. Like,
Yeah.
if you know your website for the Pest
Yeah.
Authority or
Oh
what,
yeah,
like,
yeah. So yeah, you can reach me at what is it? Go to bugsbite.com, bugsbite.com, and just type in your zip code. Make sure you're obviously you're local, and there's a contact page there, and just say, hey, you're looking for Doc, and they'll put you in connection with me. And whatever I can do to help, I mean, I legitimately, you know, mean that. You know, I love helping people.
Are you on LinkedIn too?
I am. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't
So
really
LinkedIn,
check,
Facebook,
yeah,
stuff
I don't
like
really
that.
check it that much though. It's,
Good for you,
yeah,
man.
you know, it's yeah, like I already have like email just
there's a lot.
inundated, and so you know, I could do a lot better,
Yeah.
but you know, if they search hard enough, they could probably find my cell phone out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
But hit me up on Facebook. Always, you know, DM me on Facebook. I'm always checking.
Sweet.
You know, the messenger. I'll eventually get to the messenger.
Yeah,
So I'll say that.
Well, good. So, you know, through the meetup, the pest control,
Yeah.
Facebook, a number of ways to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up? Did we cover most of it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we did. I thought I was, you know, I think we covered like who I am, what I'm about. You know, and it probably already said it, but I'll say it again that, you know, I'm a person who came from, you know, less than like desirable situation, but I had a desire to position myself and my family for more. And so if there's someone out there that resonates with, and they have it like deep inside, you know, it's got to be like that deep burning, like you just know that there's more out there for you. You know, listen to it and be willing to get really uncomfortable and be willing to take action consistently. And how long does it take? It takes as long as it takes.
Yeah. Man, you know, everyone says they want to win, but not everyone means it, you know, and you're one of the people that mean it, and you put into action, you know, what you say you're going to do. And man, like hearing your journey, what you came up through and then what you did with that is just incredible. So, I look forward to tracking your progress and success, and hopefully I'll make it to a meetup. Come and drop in and taste some of that cooking.
Absolutely.
Have dinner.
Listen, ask your dad. Your dad.
Okay.
Like,
All right, cool.
Yeah, he's like, oh, your
All right,
mom's
cool.
cooking. Oh, this is,
Yeah, perfect. All right, cool. We'll make that happen. And man, it's been great talking to you and learning more about your journey. Thank you so much for sharing and coming on the podcast.
Man, I appreciate you having me. Really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool, man.